Today I'm back out here at the same place that I stripped all that dogbane. In fact, I look down here and I find all the little pieces of the stalks and everything. Today what I like to do is work with the dogbane fiber and work out what's the best way of doing it. Nothing I say here is intended as criticism for anybody who teaches other people how to make cordage, or to criticize the way that you learned how to make cordage. I do things a little bit differently. In my opinion, the reverse wrap method, which is, the twist wrap method, is good for certain materials, but it's a very, very slow way to make cordage. And the other thing is, I don't know of any ancient cultures or primitive cultures that make cordage by hand that use that method exclusively for making their cordage. In fact, most native peoples that I've ever seen making cordage make it with thigh rolling, which is incredibly fast. When you thigh roll, you're getting about 5 or 6 complete twists of cordage every time you repeat the motion. With the reverse wrap method, the way most people have learned it, you're getting a half of a twist each time you repeat the method. For me, it's like making cordage in first gear. And there's certain materials that you kind of have to do it, like certain barks. They don't twist very well with other methods, but other fibers lend themselves to much quicker techniques. And the technique I'd like to show you today is one which there might be other people that do it this way. I kind of worked this one out on my own, thinking, okay, what's the most efficient way to do that in your hands and get a much faster rate of cordage? When I have all my materials laid out and I'm just rolling cordage, I make about 1 meter in 5 minutes. That's a good piece of cordage in 5 minutes. It's not enough to make a hammock. You'd have to thigh roll to do that, but it's fast. Now you might be asking yourself, what difference does it make what method of cordage making you use as long as you're making cordage? Well, the traditional twist one, wrap one method is never going to produce anything fine like this. This is dogbane thread, which I made back home at the apartment a few days ago, and this will actually fit through the eye of a heavy gauge needle. It's extremely small, and doing each one of those plies, there's thousands of rolls here. There's thousands of twists. I just don't think it's possible to make thread this fine unless you use a method of mass production where you're rolling those, getting more twists per motion. But I've got enough here to sew up just about anything. This is a large roll of thread, and to produce a workable quantity of thread like that, it's very hard to thigh roll at that diameter, and it's also impossible to use the standard reverse twist method for making cordage. I found that finger twisting it, I can produce this very quickly. It just flows out of the fiber, that it's very, very quick to make. With dogbane, which is what we're using today, it helps that the fibers are wet. I just got some water on my hand. It's not saturated and soaked or anything like that. What I like to do before I start out actually making cordage is to pre-roll the raw material. I'll take it, I'll throw it on my leg, and just hold the end of it and give the fibers the bias that I want them to take anyway. Now this is not cordage, this is a single ply of the material. What this does is it organizes the fiber and gives it a twist. Now I'm going to start, there's the one end, and the other end is longer. I'm going to start it in the middle here, and I'm going to twist it until it kinks. Then once it kinks, it starts making cordage. Now my method is a little bit different, and I'll shoot this from different angles with my hand facing down. I'm going to pinch it here with my thumb, twist this one tighter, trap it, pinch, and twist. And you can see I'm starting to make cordage. Twist the one away from me, twist the other, and roll the two away from me. 1, 2, 3. Now if this was thigh rolling, I would have both of them on my thigh like this. It's hard to do in jeans. I will be rolling them both like this and then twisting them together. Okay, basically what I'm doing is I'm doing that same process in my hand. This is the thigh and this is the hand. It's going to twist away from me, trap that tension, away from me, and then roll the two together. I have a Y here. Okay, this is my cordage end. These are the two plies that I'm twisting together, 1 and 2. I'm going to lay this one down, twist it tight, trap it with my middle finger, roll my hand over, twist that one tight, and then roll the two together. And when you get going, it goes very quick. Now I'm coming to a part here where I have to splice. Actually, I ran past it a little bit. I'm going to back that up. Now for splicing this material, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the material I'm splicing in along the stub. This is the short stub, and give that a twist and continue. And yes, for a short section it does give you a little bit of a thick portion of your cordage. It's not really any big deal. The important thing with this method is to keep your Y centered. You want it looking like a nice straight Y. You don't want one off to the side or else it'll wrap around. You want to keep that Y looking like a Y. Here's the cordage. Here's the two plies I'm plying together. I'm going to tighten the one, trap the tension, roll your hand over with your palm up, twist the other side, and then roll the two together. And it goes really fast. Dogbane works much better when it's wet. Now every time I repeat this motion, I'm getting 3 or 4 complete twists of cordage. I've come to another splice. Just going to back that up a little bit. Now the one end of my cordage, one ply is getting short. So I've got the long ply here and the short one there. So I'm going to roll, I pre-rolled this one, I'm going to lay it alongside the short one, give them a twist to get them together, and continue making cordage. I have never noticed that the splices are actually weaker than the other areas of the cordage. Usually the cordage will break if one side gets thin. You run the risk of the cord snapping there, but I've never had one snap at the splice. Now what usually happens with Dogbane is it gets as it gets longer, as I start working with it, I end up splicing long pieces on, so the two ends that I'm actually twisting together are actually both quite long, and I've got a lot of material, so I can just run through it and just run down the whole piece, and moves very quick. Once you get going, it's like you work with these two long horsetails rather than a short piece and a long piece alternating back and forth. And I just keep adding material as I feel it starts getting thin on the one side. I'll add material on. I'm working with about 2 feet of material on both sides of my Y, and it ends up going really quick. Now I'm going to make this into a 4-ply cord by doubling it once I get enough length. My intention is to make a Bowdrill cord. Now as I'm working here, my cordage is this end, and this is long enough now that it's draping on the ground. So what I want to do with that is we're going to roll it up. This is all my completed cordage, and I'm going to poke this through and tie it up in a bundle. That way this end, as I'm making the cordage, this end can spin freely. So So I just put it in a loose bundle like that, and now I can continue. And as I'm making the cordage, that's going to spin, and it won't be unraveling my cordage as I go. For the sake of time, I just motored through a few splices, and now let's see how much cordage I got. There's my start end. I've got, should have about 12 feet. There you go. Comes out exactly 2 body lengths or arm spans of me. Now what I'm going to do with this is, the intention was always to make a 4-ply cordage, but as you see, if I look down this cordage all along, I've got splices that stick out from the edge. They stick out, and I don't want to roll those back in. I now have to work left-handed, or the opposite direction, to ply the two together and make a 4-ply, but I don't want to ply all these little splices into the cordage, so I've got to cut those off. So I'm going to start at the head and just pull them out perpendicular, and then take my knife. The way I do it, if I only have a knife, is I'll lay that splice, the part sticking out, against the edge of my knife, and just pull up. And with a good sharp knife, you can take those off without cutting your cordage. It's Michigan. We got skeeters. Wherever I have a splice, I'll lay it on the edge of the knife and pull up. And you start at the start end of your string. Don't do it from the bottom, or else you'll pull. If you pull these the wrong way, your cord could get kind of wonky. Okay, there's one that is sticking out the wrong way, so I'm going to turn the knife around, trim that off. Now, because it's going to be a 4-ply, it doesn't really matter where the splices are, because they're going to be plied into the 4-ply. Now, to make all this cordage into 4-ply, I've got to double it over. So I've got the 2 loose ends, the 2 end pieces right there, and the one I tied a knot in, just let me know where just because I felt like it. You don't have to, it won't unravel. So we can stretch it out and find the center piece. Now if I use the same twisting motion as I did last time, the right-handed twist, I'm going to untwist it. Okay, so I'm going to have to do this with a left-handed bias now, by twisting it the opposite direction until I get a kink. Then twist that. Now working left-handed, I've got to tighten the one side, trap it, tighten the other side, and now roll the 2 together. And what I'm getting is 4-ply cordage. Now I can also do that on my thigh. There's the start of my 4-ply. And if I lay them both on my thigh, let's get my, what's in his pocket? Glock magazine. Okay. All right. If I lay them on my pant leg like that and twist the 2 together, then I can roll a much larger section of cordage by twisting them together. Roll them in the same direction till they're nice and tight, and then roll them away from you. The motion's always going away. Pinch here, you don't want this to twist. Pinch it there, roll the 2 together, and then twist. And I'm getting 5 or 6 complete rolls of 4-ply each time I complete this motion. Now continuing this process, I'm hand rolling it because it's just easier for me to do it that way. And I'm going to get about 5 feet of 4-ply cordage out of this almost 12 feet of 2-ply. Now I've got it down to the end here, So I'm going to try and get a little bit more twist out of this. On my thigh, it's too short to do on my fingers, so I'm just going to roll it against my fingertip on my thigh here. And when I come down to the end, I'm just going to tie an overhand knot in it and call it a day. And what I wind up with is nice 4-ply cordage. If I untwist that, you'll see that's two 2-plies, which are now spun together. I've got now a little bit less than half of what I started with when it was doubled, because it's got all that tension, it's all twisted up. But this weight of cordage, especially with Dogbane, Dogbane's good stuff. This, as a 4-ply, is definitely strong enough to use for a Bowdrill. I do not think I would want to use even a 4-ply made this way for a bow string. If I was going to make a bow and arrow, might hold, might not. You know, I don't want to get a string in my eye. But for a Bowdrill, this is perfect. That's plenty long. I only need about that much in the middle for a bow. And I've got enough for my knots on both ends. So, that is a 4-ply Bowdrill string made from Dogbane. Put any comments or questions down below. The method that I use, rolling in my fingers like that, is a little fiddly at first. Don't expect just to watch this video and do it. I tried to include a few different camera angles of the motion, and there's other videos on my channel which you can see that the method I used for finger twisting it. That is how I make cordage. That's how I made that 42 feet of cordage for my float line out on the island. For me, it's just a much faster method, and like I said, not to criticize anyone else's methods or the way they've been taught. I get a little dismayed sometimes that people learn the reverse twist method and think they've got cordage making in the bag. Okay, they can check that off check that box that they've already done that. And when it comes down to it, when you have to make cordage, you have to make a fishing line. You have to make a ridge line for your tarp. Just having a few inches of cordage in your bushcraft bag and say, yeah, I've got that skill down. When you need cordage, you need a lot of it. For fishing, for making a net, for making a hammock. It's a good skill to have. It's a good skill to master, and know that you can harvest a plant, harvest some nettles, and make enough for a snare right there. Or harvest some Dogbane and make enough for a Bowdrill cord, which is going to last you a while, without thinking you have to sit there by the fireside for hours and hours and hours. I think most people that they learn to make cordage and they only learn the reverse twist method, and the lesson, their takeaway is, I'm going to carry just giant bales of paracord everywhere I go because cordage making is really hard and really slow. That's not the case. If you've ever seen a hammock made of handmade cordage, which I have, those ladies will crank out cordage by the bale. And they do it all with thigh rolling, which I have not mastered with all materials. But I find the finger twisting method is adequate for what I do. It certainly got me through 66 days on the island, and I never lacked for cordage. I had more fiber up there than I knew what to do with. And I made a lot of cordage. There you go. That is one 4-ply, 5-foot long Dogbane Bowdrill cord. And this goes in the bushcraft kit. And I've got some cedar which I harvested up on the island, and I'm going to make the Bowdrill set with that, and I'll use this as the cord.